So with Module 26, we'll be getting some new artifact sets, 3 in total. So these 3 artifact sets will come from areas linked to the new module with its campaign. You will obtain one when you get to 600 points of campaign progress, and then I'm still not sure where you'll get the artifact that'll go with it. Another one you'll most likely get via the store, much like we had with the Eye of Odran from Mensa Baranzan. And ultimately, the new Mythic set will be coming undoubtedly from the new dungeon, which will be the Demon Web Pits dungeon. All of this is still open to change. This is the preview server, still in development, and we're giving our feedback. So I'm going to go test out each of these 3 sets, give my thoughts and opinions, and my math on whether it works and whether it's broken. There are definitely a few of them not working quite as they should. So first of all, we have the Mythic set with the Marilith mask, the Jewel of the Marilith, and also the Sash of Marilith. And this creates a full set which gives you the bonus of Marilith Strike. You can see the neck piece gives us dexterity plus those ratings. The waist gives us 3 strength and 3 dexterity plus those ratings. And the artifact itself will give crit severity, accuracy, and combat advantage. So a very good stat artifact to use, possibly as primary, but definitely as secondary. It also has the highest item level of any artifact in the game. 1,500 to match your Wand of Domination, Eye of Odran, and Rod of Pain. Now, when you have all 3 pieces equipped, they have a ton of item levels, so you gain that boost, but you gain the bonus of Marilith Strike. Whenever you hit an enemy with a critical attack, the damage the enemy takes will be increased by 1% for 5 seconds, and this can stack up to 5 times. Yes, you may very well have seen an effect like this in the game before, and you are correct. This came from the campaign Ravenloft, where you could buy the Apocalypse Choker and the Apocalypse Binding, and from doing money coins bank heist you can get the Apocalypse Dagger, creating the set of Apocalypse to increase the damage the target takes by 1% per stack up to 5%. Exactly the same, so it's a copy and paste. However, we need to test, does this version actually work and does it stack with the older version? When in combat and attacking your enemy, you can see we obtain those like Apocalypse Dagger icons, and it's called Marilith Strike, so at least that's updated, and you gain the 5 stacks. So very good to see that there. But when you use both the sets, Apocalypse plus Marilith, you can see it stacks, and we obtain 5 plus 5 stacks of the daggers on the target. So testing, does it actually work? It does indeed. 5 stacks increases our damage from our base, and with then 10 stacks it increases the damage further. You can also see the increase in the effectiveness. It will not stack with itself, so yeah, there's that. So in an ideal group, you'll want to have one person using this set. And it will most likely be the duty of a damage dealer, because Apocalypse set will be on your healers. Tanks could run this set, absolutely. It just won't give you the best stats, and depending on the content, they might need the added survivability of an alternative set. And then the artifact being very good for a damage dealer with the stats it gives will make it even more appealing. Now we'll test the artifact after we cover the other sets. So we move on to the Realm Engine Core set, the set that's going to give us dashing action. This set, the neck and the waist, have 2,000 item level. The neck giving 6 dex and the waist giving 3 strength and 3 con. So somewhat targeted at melee damage dealers, but it has the bonus of Rune of the Underdark. Whenever you use the daily power, you create a rune on the ground for 6 seconds, empowering any ally within it by 5% accuracy, 5% crit strike, and 5% outgoing damage. Won't stack with other runes of the same type. So when we are in combat here and we use that daily power, you can see we create the rune on the ground and we gain the buff right here. But you can see it gives Rune of Aggression, not what it's saying, Rune of Underdark. Rune of Aggression, it comes from your Dragonbone Blade set and your Wyvern Blade set. You can see the Wyvern set just here, Rune of Aggression, giving 5% power and 5% crit severity. And testing out this set, it does actually give you Rune of Aggression instead. Hopefully they can get this fixed so that it gives the accuracy and crit strike instead, but Even so, I don't rate this set very highly. It only has a 6-second uptime, potentially useful for those classes who can cast their daily very often, as it will give the 5% damage buff, as it states, which can help, giving everybody a little bit of damage boost. But healers, you generally want to be running Vistani or Apocalypse if you want to boost people's damage, because you can always give them that damage boost even outside of an artifact call. So I don't really see this set as very viable other than its stepping stone gear. The artifact has defensive stats, so if you need that for survivability, you could use it. As a tank, I wouldn't really recommend it. It does have a ton of item level, but the tanks are better off just running ones that are going to give you stamina regen, like the Mythilar Fragment, and then our older ones which would give 15%. So then we move on to the Mythic Bolt set. It's got the Baron brooch, it's got the Baron belt, and then yes, the Mythic Bolt. Now this set will give us again 2000 item level, but this time 6 wisdom on the neck and 3 dex and 3 charisma on the waist. I think the ability scores on the neck should be switched with the engineer's pendant to give 6 dex, and if the engineer's pendant gave the 6 wisdom, it'd be a little bit better, because the healers could run this one, and you'll see why, because this brain set gives you dashing action, which is pretty much a damage set. It's if you stand still for 3 seconds, you gain 5% damage and 5% action point gain. Can be pretty useful in certain boss fights where you're standing around a lot, especially if you're a ranged DPS. But with 6 wisdom, it makes it seem like there are definitely better options than it. But it could be used as stepping stone gear, again, giving you a damage boost as well. It's not so bad. AoE content, not really viable. It's got the artifact Mythic Bolt, which has a split between offense and defensive stats, so not the best there either. So this set, does it work? It does indeed. We got our base damage, and we can see the damage gets increased when we gain the bonus, and we can also see an increase to our action point gain by 5%. Now let's check the artifacts. Now before we actually test them, there's a thing to note about them. These artifacts require you to have reagents exactly like the ones you need for the Eye of Odran. You're starting off with needing the Beholder Eye Stalks, and then to get to purple you will need the Colt of Zugtomy, and then the Enchanted Hisakur, and then the Prism to finally get to Mythic. So that's a lot of grinding, a lot of Elite Sigils, Glyphs of Warding, and the Mensa Branson Mint. However, thankfully, if you've seen my video about the hunt system, you will be able to use a modifier which will give you currency for that Mensa Branson campaign, allowing you to use that modifier when you do your hunts to grind out those reagents. But it does mean completing the Mensa Branson campaign in order to actually buy those reagents. Potentially you'll be able to buy them from the Demon Web Pits campaign as well. We don't know yet because I haven't managed to complete it yet. They haven't given us that time. So yeah, pretty heavy grind to get these artifacts upgraded, but well worth it for something like the Marilith Mask, because as a damage dealer, it'll give you all the offensive stats you need for it. And it'll also be a debuff if you don't have other options. As for the other 2 artifacts, not too great. You'd be better off with having the Wand of Domination in one slot, then you'd have the Mask, and then you'd have the Rod of Pain, ideally. But be warned, you cannot actually have, like, the Mystic Bolt plus the Mask. It gives you an error. We remove this, we try slot it. No, you cannot. Nor the engine thing. Nor the Eye of Odran. So there are 4 artifacts, of which you can only ever have 1 slotted. So yeah, they're definitely making it that you can only use 1 of these. So instead of the Eye of Odran, you're gonna be better off having the Marilith Mask. We're talking about minuscule amounts of optimization, just because the Eye of Odran has like controller resistance instead of the Marilith Mask having a complete set of offensive stats. And we're talking for DPS here. But yeah, just be warned, there is no point going for all of these And if you're sort of budget, there's no point going for any of them if you, let's say, already have the Eye of Odran on Mythic, because you cannot have both Eye of Odran plus any of these other new ones. A bit of a bummer, but maybe they can fix it. Who knows? They do have the same upgrade process with needing the same special reagents, so maybe it's intended. Now I went and tested each of the artifacts, the Mystic Bolt, the Mask, and the Realm Engine Core, whether they actually work in the way they say they are. The Mask is supposed to make it so that the target takes 7.5% increased damage for 10 seconds. The Realm Engine Core is pretty much supposed to do the exact same thing, along with giving you some added hit points. You can see when we have a target and we cast it, that it gives us a bit of a shield, along with the debuff on the enemy, making them take increased amount of damage. Realm Engine Blast. Now, very interestingly, the Marilith Mask, making the target take 7.5% extra damage, gives the bonus of vulnerability, making it so that they take increased damage from all attacks. This is the exact same bonus that the Wand of Domination gives, the vulnerability. Same as your Succubus and the Incubus and the Spine Devil, all of which do not stack with each other. It's all the same bonus, just at different levels of actual vulnerability. So the Marilith Mask may not stack its debuff with the Wand of Domination. And regardless, you will be better off with the older artifacts that just increase your party's damage by up to 10%, even up to 24%. And otherwise, the Mystic Bolt has some tooltip error, and it's supposed to reduce the enemy's accuracy, and thus it would indirectly increase your combat advantage damage against the target, but this currently does no effect. You cast it, yes, you put the area on the target, that purple area which should reduce the enemy's awareness, but it does not. It does absolutely nothing. We can check my data, and we can see this was our base damage. The Mystic Bolt was dealing no increased damage. You can see the base damage exactly the same. The Realm Engine Core works, give us that debuff of 7.5%, and the Marilith Mask also works, giving the vulnerability and the 7.5%, but very likely does not stack with the Wand of Domination's vulnerability or the Spine Devil's vulnerability. So if you're running a Spine Devil in your party or in your group, there is no point using that artifact to debuff the enemy. You're again better off, much better off, with debuff artifacts from like these top 10 here. But with that said, ultimately the new Mythic set with the Marilith Mask is going to be best in slot for one person in group content to use. You want to ideally have at least one person on it, if that's a DPS or a healer or a tank. Somebody who's got high uptime on attacking with a high crit rate. Otherwise, the rest of the artifacts and the sets are not too good. The dashing action set here with the Mystic Bolt unfortunately doesn't have the correct ability scores, and the requirement of standing still cannot be good in certain content like Zemnich's Reliquary. And then the Realm Engine Core with its Rune of Underdark I don't really see as very viable unless they increase the duration and the percentage of the outgoing damage to 10% instead of 5%. Otherwise, you're better off just using a set to boost the team like the Apocalypse set and then like the stacking Vistani sets. Maybe if you change the Vistani step from stacking, somebody will use this. So, massive thank you again to all these channel members for their added support, and we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.